The King's Avatar, Chapter 1584 Gunshot. Audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1584, Gunshot. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Using the myriad manifestation umbrella's large canvas to hide Lord Grimm's movements was a trick that Yi Shu liked to use. There was no way Team Samsara wouldn't know about it. Knowing about it and playing against it were two entirely different matters. When Lord Grimm held up his umbrella in front of him and used charge, Josekai had recognized this possibility. He had observed that Lord Grimm should still be behind his umbrella. After all, his umbrella was mid-charge. Yes, the myriad manifestations umbrella was still mid-charge. But when Cloudpiercer moved horizontally so that he could attack Lord Grimm unobstructed, Lord Grimm was gone. Josekai was confused for a moment, but he quickly figured out what had happened. Spirit guidance. This was the Exorcist's spirit guidance. Yi Shu used this skill and threw out his umbrella to make it seem like he had used charge. In theory, any priest class could do this, but no one ever did because no one had a shield that completely covered him like the myriad manifestations umbrella. Even Josekai wasn't able to keep up with the endless skill combinations from the unspecialized. Figuring out that it was spirit guidance so quickly was already very impressive. Lord Grimm wasn't there. Where was he? Cloudpiercer used random firing as he searched his surroundings. Bullets flew in all directions, creating a protective net around himself. Josekai had unexpectedly adopted a defensive stance. However, he wasn't able to locate Lord Grimm. He had searched everywhere around him, but no one was there. How did Lord Grimm run so far away in such a short amount of time? Shadow clone technique. Teleport. There was no shadow clone left behind, but it wouldn't have been possible anyways. Because his myriad manifestations umbrella had been thrown out with a spirit guidance, Lord Grimm could only use priest skills. Spirit guidance wasn't discarding the weapon. The thrown weapon was still considered equipped even if it wasn't in the user's hands. Thus, Lord Grimm was stuck as a priest, and priest classes didn't have instant movement skills. There was only one possibility. Cloudpiercer leapt to the side. While in the air, he turned around and fired 2 shots towards the myriad manifestations umbrella. A change had already occurred over there. The moment Cloudpiercer turned around to search his surroundings, the myriad manifestations umbrella retracted, and Lord Grimm appeared. Then, he lifted his umbrella and sprinted towards Cloudpiercer. Everyone except for Josekai saw this change. Yes, it had indeed been spirit guidance. Josekai had guessed correctly. Lord Grimm had feigned a charge by using spirit guidance. Priest classes didn't have instant movement skills. What Yi Shu used wasn't a skill but simply basic movement. He used his stamina to sprint. He hadn't moved far, maybe 2 or 3 steps. However, with these 2-3 steps, he just happened to be outside of Cloudpiercer's vision. When Cloudpiercer moved to an angle behind the umbrella, Lord Grimm had moved to an angle in front of the umbrella. It looked like 2 kids playing a game, but even the normal players knew what terrifying skill was needed to pull it off. The angle of the umbrella, the timing of the sprint, and the timing for stopping the spirit guidance. All of these details were crucial, and the slightest misstep meant failure. Connecting all these parts together was already very difficult, but Yi Shu had done it all perfectly. It was through this perfect execution that he was able to catch Josekai off guard. The moment Josekai realized what Yi Shu had done, he had Cloudpiercer leap to the side to dodge. But it was too late. With a shing cut, Lord Grimm instantly closed the distance, faster than Cloudpiercer could shoot. Blood splattered into the air. The shing cut Cloudpiercer. His guns were aimed in the wrong direction. Bang 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 bang. Cloudpiercer's dual guns still went off. He wasn't able to stop himself from firing in time. But he immediately responded to the current situation, knee strike. Cloudpiercer sent a knee strike towards Lord Grim. This skill had a knockback effect, which would help pull apart the distance between them. Yishu's Lord Grim dodged to the side. At the same time, his myriad manifestations umbrella split into two swords, creating two intertwining arcs of light. Cross slash. It was a low-level assassin skill, which had different effects depending on the weapon. When two swords were used, the swords crisscross, cutting off the target's movement options. However, when these intertwining arcs of light flashed out, an opening appeared. Bang 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 bang. Gunfire continued to echo. And just like this, Cloudpiercer was able to make his way past Yishu. After Cloudpiercer had been sliced by the Shing cut, he was still able to pull away from Lord Grim. Aimed in the wrong direction. Unable to stop himself from firing. Anyone who had these thoughts was gravely mistaken. Josekai hadn't made a mistake. He had been aiming toward where the myriad manifestations umbrella had previously been. Miss. His goal wasn't to attack. If his random firing from before had been him playing defensively, then his Cloudpiercer was currently playing the runaway game. WooshAWorldAudio.com. He hadn't fired his dual guns to attack, but rather to use the recoil to help him move. Josekai was using aerial fire. People still didn't realize it even after Cloudpiercer pulled away from Lord Grim. They thought that Josekai had done something miraculous when in reality, it was simply a result of his immediate response to not finding Lord Grim during his search. Cloudpiercer had pulled away from Lord Grim, but it was no more than 3 body lengths away. After Lord Grim's cross/missed, he readjusted himself and attacked again with teleporting stab. In Happy's match against Tyranny, Yishu had chosen to put flickering stab on his assassin weapon form, giving everyone a deep impression. This time, he used a similar skill to flickering stab, teleporting stab. The distance was instantly closed. But this move wasn't considered a teleport. No matter how fast it was, Lord Grim still had to turn around and take a step. It was just that it was all done extremely fast. But Josekai was faster. Before the flickering stab could be completed, a pitch-black muzzle was already aimed towards Lord Grim's head. The body of the gun was very long. It wasn't a revolver. Sharpshooter level 70 skill, Thunder Snipe. He had actually used Thunder Snipe at such a close range. The crowd was in chaos. The Josekai on stage and the Josekai off stage were like two different people. Off stage, he was silent and invisible. But on stage, he was always so flashy. Bang! End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1585. Despair and Hope. Audio source, WooshAWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1585. Despair and Hope. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. The open gunfire seemed to be right on Lord Grim's forehead. It was true that long-range attacks were at a disadvantage at close range, but at such close range, shots could be fired with extreme accuracy. Dodging would be impossible, something that no one could do. Puff! The bullet broke through the skull, and the sound of it entering the flesh was exceptionally clear. Lord Grim's head exploded with blood. Just from the power and movement of this attack, those watching felt that it wouldn't be unfair if this one attack was able to directly kill him. But this was a game, after all, and everything had to follow the rules of the game. Lord Grim's head was still there even after being hit, but the sharp drop in his health was unavoidable. Cloudpiercer, as the Great Gunner, had an extremely high attack stat to begin with, and as a headshot, the damage was doubled. This one attack took 1/3 of Lord Grim's health, enough to hurt the heart. With the skills available to an unspecialized, who knew how many attacks would need to land in order to do that kind of damage to the opponent. He can't go on. At this moment, even Happy's most loyal of fans couldn't help but wonder. Even though the two hadn't exchanged blows for too long. Even though Lord Grimm's health was far from depleted, the might that Josei's Cloud Piercer demonstrated on stage could generate this kind of despair. A thunder snipe unleashed at close range. Such an unthinkable thing spread despair off stage, and all those who stood opposed to Samsara felt it. Not only did this one attack deal so much damage, the momentum carried by this powerful shot affected the character's balance. The head that remained amidst the blood jerked back, as though punched, and it carried the rest of the body with it. But he didn't fall. Lord Grimm's right foot stepped back, supporting the rest of this body. Perhaps most people wouldn't have noticed this detail, but this was a powerful demonstration of Yishu's skill. A snipe at this distance couldn't be avoided, but stepping back in time to support the rest of the body required reaction and response to the extreme. With this step, Lord Grimm stabilized himself in the fastest way possible, and from here he could counterattack in the shortest time possible. After all, no matter how fierce or destructive, Thunder Snipe was only one attack. To switch the long gun for the revolver again, the character still need to move, and this short span of time was a window for Yishu to counterattack. Without this step backward, he would have no way of seizing this opportunity. Amidst despair, hope arose. But only experts would be able to detect this kind of hope. Before this hope could spread to everyone, another wave of despair came crashing down. Car. A light sound, clear, crisp, but uncommonly powerful. Thunder Snipe. Bullet reload. No one dared believe their ears. Glory's Thunder Snipe only had one shot. Firing again required the skill to come off cooldown. But now, Josei's Cloud Piercer, right after using one shot, was already reloading a second shot. Where did his skill cooldown go? Skill cooldown? As soon as they thought of this game terminology, a number of players reacted. Dual load. This sharpshooter skill could allow a skill that was currently in cooldown be ready for immediate use. Josei must have used this skill. That was why, right after using a Thunder Snipe, it could be immediately be reloaded, because he used dual load to end the cooldown. Bang! The gun fired again. It was over. It was really over. If what happened before could only be called a subconscious feeling aroused in the heart, then this time, this second consecutive Thunder Snipe, dragged everyone down into despair for good. The gun's muzzle spat out fire. No one could even see the bullet fly out, because it was too fast, too close. The bullet would hit, blood would spatter. Wasn't that how it went? Clang. No blood. What came with the sound was a brilliant flash of sparks, sparks generated from the friction of a metal collision. The myriad manifestations umbrella was lifted in front of Lord Grimm's chest. The sword pulled from the center of the umbrella was still trembling after the sparks faded. Sword form, guard. The stadium was in an uproar. Those in front of their televisions were in an uproar. He'd actually used the Blade Master's guard to block Cloud Pierce's Thunder Snip. At this close range, what kind of eyesight? What kind of control? No one could answer this question. All that they knew was that the two people currently on stage were accomplishing the superhuman. If Lord Grimm's step back was a hope that not many detected, then this time, using a guard to block a Thunder Snipe was a clear scene that brought clear hope, hope that could burn away the despair that Josei wrought. It wasn't over. It was far from over. Only a bastard would think it was over. Those that supported Happy and Yishu almost wanted to cry. WashOurWorldAudio.com. This feeling of serving despair was too wonderful. This feeling of hope was too wonderful. At this time, the amount of time these two had spent attacking each other could be counted in seconds. But the rise and fall in emotion that it gave the viewers was just this intense. But even after successfully blocking the thunder snipe, Lord Grim's situation couldn't be called stable. The momentum from the first shot that had hit his head hadn't been completely dissipated. And although the guard absorbed the attack's damage, it couldn't completely dispel the momentum from this powerful level 70 attack. Step back non-stop. Yi Zhu didn't use backward rolls, the simplest and most effective way of dispelling momentum. He chose to use this more complex method, whose rhythm was harder to grasp, because he didn't want Cloudpiercer to leave his sight. An opponent like Josekai, even the short moment in a roll when his eyes would leave him was enough of an opening for him to seize. And while stepping back, Yi Zhu counter-attacked. Bang! Gunshot. The blade used for the guard was already slid back into the umbrella. Raised parallel to the ground, the myriad manifestations umbrella turned back into gun form, and fire spat out of the tip. This counter-attack against the Great Gunner was also a gunner shot, an accurate close-range shot, stun bullet. But the distance between the two characters right now was still larger than it had been when Josekai had used his first thunder snipe. Cloudpiercer was moving backward from the recoil, Lord Grim was moving backward from the impact of the attack. Even though Yi Zhu's shot was very fast, but distance still gave Josekai the space to react. Twist the body, holster the gun. This rifle that would not come off cooldown so quickly again was put away, and Cloudpiercer once again lifted his twin revolvers. He twisted his body to avoid the stun bullet, activated speed firing, and the bullets flew outward. But in this moment, Yi Zhu had already completely regained control of Lord Grim's movement. Collapsing mountain. The gun was put away and the sword came out once again, not the tachi hidden in the umbrella stem, but the broadsword formed from the eccentric folded shape of the umbrella surface. With burning killing intent flying right past the bullets that Cloudpiercer shot. Full. End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1586 10 Years, Samsara, Audio Source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1586, 10 Years, Samsara. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. The myriad manifestations umbrella in broadsword form wasn't bright, and its shape was so strange that it was laughable. But when it came plummeting down, carrying a strong gust of wind, even Josekai couldn't laugh. Yi Zhu didn't dodge, didn't retreat. Just like this, he met the attack head-on. Under the rain of bullets, Lord Grim slashed forward with a collapsing mountain. With Josekai's level of control, he could easily change the angle of Cloudpiercer's attack to land many shots upon Lord Grim's body. But so what? He could damage Lord Grim, but he couldn't stop the fall of Lord Grim's collapsing mountain. In terms of attack priority, long-range attacks were no match for close range. This was a design that Josekai couldn't change. Even if he could use the level 75 Thunder Snipe and blast Lord Grim's head again, he couldn't force Lord Grim back. Yi Zhu understood this point extremely clearly. To defeat a long-range class, he could only advance, and could not retreat. Whether facing an ordinary gamer in Glory's arena, or the number one great gunner Josekai, it was all the same. And so, he didn't retreat. And so, he maintained his forward-facing attack stance. He did so when faced with the Thunder Snipe. He did so when faced with the rain of bullets from speed firing. The collapsing mountain came down, and Josekai had no choice but to dodge. Cloudpiercer hurriedly retreated, at the same time lifting his gun and firing toward the mid-air Lord Grim. He chose to dodge, but he didn't give up on attacking. But Lord Grimm suddenly changed direction in mid-air, plunging downward with a speed that shouldn't have been possible with a collapsing mountain. Yishu had anticipated early on that Josekai could dodge to the side and attack at the same time, and so he began making mid-air adjustments as soon as he jumped up for the collapsing mountain. Collapsing mountain cancel, falling light blade. A broadsword could use falling light blade as well. The form wasn't as light or graceful as it would be with a lightsaber or tachi, but it carried greater momentum and pressure. With this change, Lord Grimm's path skewed toward Cloudpiercer, and Cloudpiercer, who was currently jumping back to avoid the collapsing mountain, could not easily change direction again. But the current controller of Cloudpiercer was Josekai, that Josekai who was said to be able to do anything on stage except heal. He was actually able to react fast enough to keep up with Lord Grimm's swift change from collapsing mountain to falling light blade. The bullets he fired from the gun he just lifted were knocked away by the falling light blade, but then he was already moving. Characters in mid-air especially relied on recoil to adjust their movement. This whole process took less than a second, yet the two of them fought with so many changes, so many inputs. What level of technique was this? The broadcast wished to show stats of the two players' hand speeds, but by the time they displayed this data, that moment had already passed. They just couldn't catch up to the battle rhythm. All of this had happened in the span of time Cloudpiercer took to jump back once. Cloudpiercer landed, and immediately looked for a direction to roll. Even though he had adjusted his aim precisely, he could only damage Lord Grimm. It wouldn't impact his skills very much. Immediately after, Lord Grimm landed, and the force from the falling light blade expanded. Cloudpiercer, who had started rolling, couldn't avoid all of the damage, but he was able to dispel the effects of the attack with the greatest speed. When his roll was halfway through, two muzzles were already pointing at Lord Grimm from the ground. This kind of attitude was very similar to Yishu's mindset when he stepped backward after the thunder snipe to stabilize himself. At any moment, both of them were working hard to find an opportunity to attack. In a situation where only half a step of retreat was necessary, no one would retreat any further, not even an inch. Gunshot. Gunfire burst forth from the muzzles of the revolvers. At this moment, Cloudpiercer and Lord Grimm were already within melee range of each other, but even in this kind of small space, Lord Grimm actually didn't have control over the situation. Cloudpiercer was supposed to be better at long range, but his gunshots didn't stop. It was as though he carried two knives in his hands, that spitting fire and those non-stop bullets serving as sharp blades, accurately slicing any enemies that dared approach. At this point, he had already broken past the idea of gun-fu. This wasn't a combination of taijutsu and gunfire. Josekai's gunfire had become a form of taijutsu, thanks to his extreme control, taking precision to the limit. Too strong. Quote. In the broadcast, Panlin couldn't hold himself back, forgetting himself as he shouted. Because he believed that he was far from the only one who had fallen into the craze of this moment. The entire glory world was probably trembling from this scene. Long range, short range, two completely different kinds of classes, but under Josekai's control, this wall built into the game was actually broken. His Cloudpiercer danced with his gunfire like a close-range class. Wildfire, shattered frost, they spat out not individual bullets, but a tight and continuous stream. They were the searing and deadly blades in Josekai's hands. Brilliant, beautiful, unbelievable. WushOurWorldAudio.com. All sorts of praise tumbled from Panlin's mouth. This is the summit. This is a revolution. I think that even Yishu would have to admit this point. Yes. Worthy of being Glory's #1. Li Yibo hurriedly broke in before Pan Lin could steal away all the words and spotlight. But would someone misunderstand? Would anyone not know the person about whom Li Yibo was talking? Of course not. The person he was talking about was of course Zhou Zekai, only Zhou Zekai, the Zhou Zekai who could break through the very fundamentals of Glory's design through sheer skill. The number one in Glory was him. Li Yibo directly gave this conclusion. Facing Yishu, the Yishu who repeatedly surprised and humbled them, Li Yibo still dared to declare this without hesitation. All of those lessons and experiences from before, he no longer remembered them. In their eyes, there was only the sheer strength that Zhou Zekai displayed. 1,000 troops and 10,000 horses couldn't stop him. How could a mere Yishu? Yes, a mere Yishu. Right now, everyone saw nothing but Zhou Zekai's stunning, jaw-dropping performance. Yishu? Or a wooden dummy? A scarecrow? It didn't matter. He was just a backdrop, a not too bad backdrop, serving to augment the protagonist. Too powerful, too brilliant, too beautiful, too unbelievable, the summit, a revolution. Pan Lin said that even Yishu would have to admit this point. Yes, Yishu very much admitted it. It was indeed very powerful, very brilliant, very beautiful, very unbelievable. But the problem was this kind of incredible power, brilliance, beauty, he had already experienced it 10 years ago. 10 years ago, he had experienced it all. If not for an accident, this brilliance should have stepped onto this stage 10 years ago. 10 years, Samsara, end chapter.